Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today we are going back almost 50 years to 1974, the strange case of the Fort Worth missing trio, these three girls. It's always difficult to do very, very old cases, especially when there's not a lot of information. So I just want to tell you, we're going to do some interesting thinking about this crime because there is so little information. And there's a lot of people gossiping and throwing out a whole bunch of crap, which is totally unnecessary because there's no proof of any of it. And we'll discuss that in a minute. First, I just want to welcome everybody who is here in the chat room. And I said hello to most people. And if I haven't, welcome. I'm going to make it short because people say I talk too long before the show. But if you'd like to be in the chat room, hey, the show does have to go on. And that's why we need support. Who is we? Oh, me. Okay. You can join Patreon. The link is below. It's $5 a month. I only have one level. And what happens on that level is that you can come to 8 live shows per month, 2 per week. And also, we also have a nice community, and that supports the channel. It is an educational channel. So I'm very careful what I put up here, and I don't do 50 shows on one case and spread the gossip so I can get the clicks. So do need your help? I don't mind begging. All right. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. Please do subscribe to the channel. That makes a huge difference. Please do subscribe to the channel. So, like the video, click the bell for notifications. And what I tell people all the time, check the playlist. Go through them. Look for the cases you're interested in. And also just go to the search engine at YouTube and put in Profiler Pat Brown in any case you're interested in and see if I've already done it. Because a lot of times every day I get many people saying, could you look at this case? And I'm like, already did it. And so it's there. The idea is that there's a lot of cases I've analyzed that you can watch and get some education in profiling and crime scene analysis and logic. Okay? All right, so here we go. Let me just check on the comments in the chat room just for a second. Loretta is also here. Lisa S is also here. Valerie's also here. Lynn is also here. Okay, I think that's everybody new who's come in. Thank you for being here today. Okay, let's go to this case. All right, so there's extremely little information on this case, but what little we do have, it's a great exercise in how to look at that information and use logic to come up with the better conclusions. Because I don't have the police files. It's a 50-year-old case, 49. Well, 49 as of today. A year from now, it'll be 50. But these girls here, I'll tell you the basics. And the best place, actually, although it has misinformation, I actually prefer Wikipedia. Why? Because a few other sites that talk about this go into a lot of speculation and just nonsense. I will link below an article, which is as thorough an article as you're ever going to get on this case. If you want to go further in and find out all these different things, which I'm going to talk about what's important and what isn't. A very well-done article by a journalist back in the day. At least I think it's fairly back in the day. And this I also want to point out, Stephanie Harlow, she has 2 videos, 1 hour each, which goes over this case. And basically she uses that one article. And a lot of people accused her of plagiarism, like, give this guy credit, you're just using his article. And pretty much that it's true that she just used that article because that is the only article with that much information in it. So she did use it. And so it's true, but I don't know where else she's going to get the information. So I'm not totally opposed to that, although she should link that in the description. I don't know that she did, that this is the article I used to get all this information from. From that point on, she also takes that information and speculates in a way that I'm going to describe is the reason I have this channel. That I like Stephanie Harlow for, she's got a great voice, a nice personality, and if she just does a story, I'm good. When she starts going to speculation, I get concerned because she goes in areas that I think is not so proficient at, shall we say, and just throw stuff out there that's nonsense. I'm going to point out a couple of them that just drove me nuts when I did listen to it. It was very long. So I would say just read this article, the link below, if you want to go through in depth. But I'm going to use Wikipedia, although they got some crap wrong in there, because there's not really a lot of information. So I want to go to the basics and then expand that. Okay, so here's the basics. The Fort Worth missing trio, these three girls, refers to an unsolved missing persons case in which three girls, I'll try to pronounce the name correct, Mary, Rachel, it's Trlica. I think it's Trlica. So everybody says Rachel, which is her middle name, which is what she called herself. So from now on, so I don't keep screwing up her last name, because it's really weird. Trlica. It just bugs me, and I'm never comfortable with the weird last names. Okay, Rachel. And this is Lisa Renee Wilson. She's known as Renee. And this girl here is Julie Ann Mosley, and she is known as Julie. So we have Rachel, we have Renee, and we have Julie. Let's go with those names. They went missing while shopping at the Seminary South Shopping Center in Fort Worth, Texas. All right, let me show you sort of what I think might be the shopping center. And the reason I say this is because from different places, I saw pictures, but the pictures were never labeled properly. Like, I really don't know if this exactly is the shopping center. It's changed. The name today is La Grande. What the heck is it? Oh, dang, I forgot. It's La Grande something, La Grande Plaza or something like that. La Grande Plaza, because it's very heavily Mexican now, so it's turned into kind of a Mexican place. I think it's La Grande Plaza. I'll show you a map and have the proper name. But basically, it was a big mall. It was in 1974, and that was an open mall. So the whole place wasn't entirely closed, although there was roofing over a lot of areas so you could walk without getting rained on. Very large mall, and with a very large parking lot. And so these are a couple pictures I saw, and as I say, I have no clue how accurate these are, because there's nothing with them that says this is where it happened. Okay, but let me show you a couple other pictures, just so you can get the idea, because it really doesn't matter terribly much. So it's not like, let's not go crazy about it. This, I think, is a picture of the mall, which would show you how large it was at the time in 1974 and had a lot of parking. Okay. Now, this is a cool picture, which may or may not be the mall, of people back maybe in 1974. And here's another picture. And so, quite frankly, since they weren't identified, I don't know. But this picture is going to play a part, I think. This is important. So I'm going to come back to this, because it was quite a large mall, quite lengthy. So if you parked in one area of the mall, you would walk quite a distance to the other end of the mall. At least that's what I think, because the information sucks. So what happened was these three girls went to the mall. Okay. Now, let me just tell you the basics of why they went to the mall and how they went to the mall, because this is important. So Rachel, it's December 23rd, and she's married to her husband. She's quite young. How old is Rachel? She's age 17 at the time, and she's married already to a 21-year-old guy. And he has a stepson. He has a son that's going to be her stepson, right? He's a little son. He's I think a couple of years old, and he was not expected to be coming to Christmas at their house, but it turned out he was going to. So she's like, oh gosh, I don't want him to come out and just find a present under the Christmas tree. Let me go to the mall and buy a few other toys so that he comes out on Christmas morning and isn't unhappy, which is very nice of her. I think that's very sweet. So she gets up in the morning, and her sister lives with her. And of course, there's all kinds of gossip over this crap. So we'll get into all the issues of whether her sister was squirrely or not. But anyway, her husband had been married, got divorced, hooked up with her sister. They had a thing where they supposedly were like engaged, but it seems to be very flimsy. And then I guess it didn't quite work out. So then some people say, well, she just handed over her little sister. Okay, so little sister gets involved with the guy she was looking at or hanging with. and she ends up marrying him. Now, mind you, this husband, he's a marrying sort, and he marries again and again and again and again. He like falls really quickly and then marries really quickly and then divorces really quickly. So he's a character. Anyway, she wakes up that morning. She says, hey, I want to go to the mall. It's December 23rd. It's a Monday, which is amazing. You can look it up. You can actually just put in what day of the week is December 23rd, 1974, and it comes up as Monday. It's amazing. So the internet has some really cool features. It's the 23rd. She's not in school, but she is a high schooler, mind you. Yeah, she's married, but it's the 70s, and well, I'm missing one earring. Where'd that earring go? Okay, I'm going to remove the other side because it looks really retarded. So now you can stop saying, Pat, you're missing an earring. All right, then. Live shows. Gotta love them. Anyway, she's going to be really nice to her. She's been married 6 months. And she's going to go get these presents. Seems a very nice person. And so she decides she's going to go to the mall, which everybody goes to. And she asks her sister, who lives with them, which people say, didn't your sister used to date your husband? Well, yeah, but whatever. Who knows what kind of silly crap that was. So anyway, her sister's living with her older sister. And she says, hey, let's go to the mall. And her sister's like, oh my God, we were playing cards till 4 o'clock in the morning. I think it was canasta, which I used to play with my grandmother. And it's not really played much anymore. I think that's the one. So anyway, her sister's like, I really don't feel like it. Some people get really bent out of shape about this. Oh my God, why did her sister not go to the mall with her? She must have been in on some kind of plan with her husband. Yeah, no. Sometimes you're just up to 4 in the morning. You just don't freaking want to go to the mall with your sister and do shopping. Quite frankly, I never want to go to a mall and do shopping. So anyway, she's like, I want to go to the mall. Okay, sis doesn't want to go. She calls her friend. Her friend is Lisa Renee Wilson. She's 14. She's a little bit younger, but they were neighbors. So, it's like, oh, you want to go to the mall? She's like, oh, yeah. And I got to pick up some crap someplace. He's like, okay, cool. So they plan to go. And then it gets really complicated a wee bit. Let me show you another picture, by the way. So this is Rachel, and this is her hubby of the moment, and he's the husband of many other women. Anyway, and this is Renee. She's 14, and she's dating this guy. Okay, and this is very important because she's like really into this guy, and they're going to go to a party that night, and she's got a promise ring from him, and so she wants to be home by 4 o'clock. And she's leaving about 12 p.m. They're going to go shopping, drop her back at 4 o'clock so she can get ready for this big party. And this is important because we're talking about teenagers who are excited about what's going on in life. Now, that guy here that is dating Renee, he is the older brother of this girl here, who is Julie Ann Mosley. She's 9 years old. And her mother was working, and she has some her brother and some other siblings. And she is like bored out of her mind. She's sitting home going, oh my God, you're going to go to the mall. I want to go to the mall. Hey, my granddaughter's 9. She wants to go to the mall, right? She begs to go to the mall. She says, hey, we have to call your mom, find out whether it's okay with her. The mother was kind of hesitant because she didn't know her very well. But she's like finally said, okay, you can go to the mall. I mean, it's just the mall, for God's sakes. And it's Christmas time. You're going to go Christmas shopping. So the mother says yes to her. And so she goes with these two to the mall. All right. So then what happens is this. On the morning of December 23rd, which is a Monday, I want to point out this. In Monday, which these kids are all off of school. I want to point that out because that's important. The kids are off of school. And I also want to point out that a lot of moms were home in 1974. And so Christmas time at the mall, and on December 23rd, it's going to be a whole heck of a lot of people. There was no Amazon. You're not going, I'm going to buy these 10 presents, going to show up at my house. No. I mean, I haven't shopped at a mall in ages because I can go to Amazon. So at this point in time, malls were the big thing. It was Christmas. You went to the mall. You got to see all the Christmas decorations, and there was maybe a Santa sitting there, and you got to go to all the shops, and you bought all. That was just a big deal. So the place would be packed. And I point that out because it's a big mall, lots of people shopping there, lots of people parking there, busy, busy, busy. This is not an isolated location. And I think that's important to remember as we go forward. All right. So on the morning of December 23rd, 1974, a little before noon, Rachel, Renee, and Julie set out shopping. Now, she asked if she could tag along because she didn't want to spend the day alone. She had to get permission. She ran inside. It says she ran inside her home and asked her mother. I thought she called her mother, so this is kind of sketchy, but okay. Anyway, she wanted to go to this mall. And one of the things the mom said was, she told her no, because you don't have any money, just stay home. But she really wanted to go. So finally she said, okay, but be home by 6:00, which I thought was just a little weird because, they're going at 12. What the heck are you going to, 6 hours at the mall is kind of long. But anyway, this girl wanted to be back by 4. So it wasn't a big issue. Basically, mom's saying be home before dark. So it's January, it's Texas, but it's going to be dark-ish. And mom's coming home for dinner, right? All right. So the older girls, especially Renee, wanted to be back by 4:00 because Renee was had a Christmas party to go to, and she wanted to attend with a new boyfriend, was her brother, who had given her a promise ring that morning, and she wanted plenty of time to get ready. The girls first headed, and this is true, so let's look at the accuracy here. The girls first headed to a surplus store. I don't know where that surplus store is, and it really may or may not matter terribly much, in Fort Worth to pick up some layaway items that Renee had waiting. From there, and she changed. She bought a couple. There were a couple of like jeans or something, and she changed out of the jeans she was wearing into the new jeans. That's what I hear. And so that purchase was in the car. Okay. And so then supposedly at that point they headed to the Seminary South Shopping Center. So they had done their shopping at that one place. And the reason I think this is important is because they were doing different trips and doing things that were necessary. And so there wasn't an absolute time they would arrive at the mall. So they supposedly went to the mall at that point. At the mall, that's where they vanished, okay? It says here, when the girls did not return home. And by the way, it says also that several witnesses had reported seeing the girls in the mall that day. All the witness stuff is a little sketchy. Somebody said they thought they saw them. Somebody said they thought they saw the girl with a certain shirt on. It's very vague. And what you don't hear is that anybody at the mall who was checking anybody out, like at the Sears, she parked at the Sears entrance. And I'm going to guess she parked at the Sears entrance because she was buying toys for her, I guess, stepson. She was buying some toys. And Sears was pretty cheap for that crap. And she's a little kid, so you're just going to buy some little, kiddie toys. And so it makes sense she might have parked there. But nobody stated that this girl purchased something at the register and these two girls were there with her. Now, there's a bunch of reasons for that, so let's be reasonable. It's possible she could have gone up to the register and these two weren't interested in standing there in a line, maybe because it's busy, and they're just wandering about. So they don't see three girls. They only see one girl. And it's kind of meaningless. I mean, it's not like she's so outstanding. You say, oh my God, I remember that girl. She was just a girl. And do you remember the days of Ted Bundy, which is about the same time, that they're claiming that he picked girls that had their hair, straight hair and a part down the center. Oh my God, he had a specific kind of woman or girl. That's the 70s. My hair looked exactly the same. She also does that. She's got a little bit of waves in her hair. So she's not so straight in the hair, but generally speaking, there's a frick load and on December 23rd of girls who are out of school, teenagers, going to the mall who look exactly like that. I'm not surprised if nobody really remembers somebody checking out with toys or whatever. So we don't know. There's a point. The point about this is we don't know if they ever entered the mall or not, because the sightings are a little sketchy. But they could have entered the mall, even bought presents, and even had them in bags. And but the bags were not found in the car. This is an important point. No purchases were found in the car, which means one of two things. One, they never got into the mall, or two, they got into the mall, made purchases, but never got back to the car. So just stay with that. All right. So then they went to the mall and had some supposed possible sightings. And then it says this, when the girls did not return home, their families became concerned and traveled to Seminary South to search for them. They arrived around 6 p.m. because it's gotten dark. She's supposed to be back at 4. She's supposed to be back at 6. Where the hell are they? So see, they arrived at 6 p.m. that evening to find their car parked in the Sears upper level parking lot. Now, this is interesting to me, only because I wonder if she commonly parked in the Sears upper level parking lot, because it's, again, it's a very busy time that they would get there at night and be able to find her car. I don't know if they worked their butts off to find her car and just drove around the complex, or whether they pretty much figured that this would be the number one place she would park. So they went there first and they found the car. But they did find the car. The family stayed at the mall all night waiting for the girls to return. It is stated that their fathers sat by the car with shotguns, waiting see if anything would come up. Whether somebody would come to steal the car or were to return with the girls or whatever, they were sitting around with shotguns. And that's a story. But they were definitely gone by that time. Okay. So now what happened? When the girls failed to turn up, the police were called and the case was quickly handed to the youth division of the Fort Worth Police Department, Missing Persons Bureau. At this point, they were missing persons. They did not know at that point whether they had come into harm's way. The girls were presumed to be runaways by the investigators. Now, people have a lot of problems with this because they're like, what the heck? Okay. Apparently, her sister had run away before. She could have run away, and she could have run away. The 9-year-old, that's where things got a little bit like, you're like, what? The 9-year-old's running away? And the other problem was, it's Christmas. If I'm going to run away, I want to collect my presents first. If I'm a teenager, I want to collect my presents first. Then I'm going to run away. I'm not going to run away on the 23rd. What the heck? I'm going to miss Christmas. Where am I going to go that Christmas is going to be any good? What 9-year-old who begged her mother just to go didn't even know she was going, suddenly ends up in a plot with 2 older girls to run away? That makes 0 sense. So this is the claim that the police department said they were presumed they were runaways, which is pretty weird too, because the car was left there. No, when I run away, I want to take the car with me, or my car should end up at a bus station. But basically, they're saying in their heads that these girls are runaways. That somebody has to pick up the girls to take them to run away. Okay, it's a little strange, shall we say? So I don't know the level of truth that the police department immediately said they were all 3 runaways, or whether that was just their go-to while they were trying to figure stuff out. So I'll just be fair to them. I don't know, because I can't see the police files. All right. So the next day, Tommy, her husband, Rachel's husband, received a letter. Now here's where things get extremely weird. He received a letter that appeared to be written by Rachel. It read, I'm going to show you the letters. Okay. The letter is this letter. Okay. The letter said this, and it arrived the next day. I know I'm going to catch it, but we just had to get away. We're going to Houston. See you in about a week. The car is in Sears upper lot. Love, Rachel. Let's reread that. I know I'm going to catch it, but we just had to get away. We're going to Houston. See you in about a week. The car is in the Sears upper lot. Love, Rachel. Does she really want to run away at Christmas and not get her presents? Probably not. Could these girls be in on it? Theoretically, although she wasn't even supposed to go that day. Would this girl want to run away from her new boyfriend, promise ring, the party, so she can hang out in Houston with no money over Christmas, So the only one that makes any sense maybe would be Rachel, that her marriage was like maybe not going well and she just wanted to run away from her husband. But these two, it makes no sense whatsoever. So this letter was so bizarre, came the next day after they went missing. And this is going to be one of the biggest puzzles of this case. Where did that letter come from? Who wrote the letter? Why did they write the letter? Because it seems odd, shall we say. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but let me just give you the rest of the information on it. While the addressed envelope was written in pencil. Now okay, let me show you this. All right, the bottom part, the actual letter inside was written in pen. Now they're claiming that the upper part was written in pencil. Now, I don't know that that's true. This is one of the problems we have when you read stuff on the internet and you can't find out the truth. I know the Rachel part. You see the Rachel up in the corner? That was written in pencil. But I still can't absolutely be sure that the envelope itself was written in pencil. Because first of all, most of us know that the last thing you do is write anything in pencil when you're sending it through the post office. Rain and all that stuff. You want something that's going to stand up. So normally people write envelopes in pen. Now, you could at the last moment say, oh gosh, we didn't say who this is from, and grab a pencil and write Rachel because it doesn't matter. But I can't prove, and this is where I think it's very important to understand when you're doing crap on the internet, you don't have access to the actual. If I could see, I can't tell from those photos if everything was written in pencil on the envelope or not, or whether a pen was used to write the address and Rachel was written in pencil. Don't know. And I can't find any information on that to prove one way or the other. So I'm not necessarily believing Wikipedia here because that's just what they're putting up. And then it says the sheet of paper inside was wider than the envelope. Okay. Now, a lot is made of this issue, that the paper doesn't fit perfectly in the envelope. Now, there's a couple reasons for that. One is you got a bunch of shitty little envelopes lying around. You know how you have that box and there's stuff in there for whatever reasons. And then you want to write something. So you grab a piece of paper, you write it. You don't really care if it fits the envelope or not. Now, there's the long envelope, which would, you fold up the paper nicely and go like that. But maybe you don't have that long envelope, especially when you're younger people. A lot of times you just write on something and you fold it and you go, you like take the end of it and you go, and then stuff it in whatever you can stuff it in. So that in itself is not a huge issue. Although I will bring up an issue about whether, and I'll point this out when I'm going to talk about people's theories that her husband and her sister were the ones who produced the note. That I'll get into that later. What the envelope could be and what the writing could be. Okay, but this is what they say basically. Then they say it was addressed to Thomas A. Trlica. I still don't know about that pronunciation. Trlica. Instead of the less formal Tommy, which is what Rachel normally called him. So we have here, you'll see it says Thomas A. Trlica, as opposed to Tommy Trlica. And it has an A in the middle. It almost is very formal, like you got that out of a, you remember those things that were called phone books? And everybody used to be in the phone book because we weren't worried about being stalked. So our names were in the phone book, and they were in the phone book with our first name full, then it had an initial, and then the last name. That's the way things were, 1974. And so that would be the way his name was listed in a phone book. But some people think, if she had to write the letter, she put Thomas to like clue in her husband that, hey, I'm being held and I'm forced to write this note. So I put Thomas. Possible. And there's another reason. I'm going to go through all the envelope stuff and the writing stuff in a minute. I just want you to know the basic story. And then it talks about how Rachel was written in the upper left-hand corner of the envelope, which is true. It appeared to initially be misspelled. Now, this is people make a big deal of this. Down at the part where it says Rachel at the bottom, that the claim there is that the L actually looked like an E to begin with. like Rachee, and then the person fixed it and made it into an L. And the claim there is like, oh, maybe her sister wrote it because her name was Debbie and she got into the E's, or maybe Renee wrote it because Renee has two E's and therefore her brain went that way and then she had to fix it. But then again, sometimes when you're under duress and even if you're writing your name, you can screw it up. I've screwed up Pat Brown. I have. I mean, So is it interesting? Yes. Is it meaningful? Questionable. All right. So then we get to the next issue here. The postmark did not contain a city. That's true. Only a blurred zip code that appeared to be, and this is going to be important, so I'm going to point this out to you. There is up there at the top, you'll see where it's stamped. Now, this is really important. It's stamped December 24th. They went missing December 23rd. So they went missing Monday in the afternoon, and this envelope is stamped December 24th, the next day. It also supposedly arrives at Rachel's husband, Tommy's house, their house, on the 24th. On the very day it's mailed, it arrives, which people say, how that's impossible. Nothing ever gets there on the same day. I'll get to that in a minute too. Then there is this, the problem we have in the stamp there is that the zip code is blurred. And it's not stamped properly. So it was stamped, but something didn't quite go through. Now, some people say somebody erased it. There's all kinds of ridiculous stuff. But there's two possibilities what the stamp meant. So it was 76083 or it was 76088. I think that's, wait a minute, hold on a second. If it was a hand-loaded stamp, there was a partial 8. It was assumed the zip code was meant to be 7638, which would be in a place called Ellisville, Texas. And there's actually another place it could be, which is quite a distance, or 7688, which comes from Weatherford, Texas. And I want you to keep that in mind. I think it's an 88, and I think it's Weatherford. So that seems to be across the board. People think it's an 88. So why is this important? Because on the 24th, theoretically, this letter was mailed from Weatherford, Texas, which is 30 minutes west of Fort Worth, and arrived at the home of Tommy and Rachel within the same day. So some people think that's not even possible. Some people think that Tommy and Debbie, the sister, faked this whole thing. And I will get into the different suspects. And I'm going to tell you what makes sense and what doesn't. All right. So anyway, they got the letter and they tried to look at the FBI tried to analyze whether she wrote the letter or somebody else wrote the letter, and they couldn't figure it out. It goes to show you, it's amazing how often it comes out inconclusive. So anyway, despite receiving the letter, the girls' families did not believe it was written by Rachel, nor that the girls had run away. And so they didn't know what to think. They just went missing. None of the parents believed they went off on their own. They thought they were kidnapped. A lot of people, though, thought they may have left us somebody they knew. But all the families said no, they were kidnapped. All right. So anyway, doesn't go very far after this. Okay, this is the information. Just to go, their bodies are never found. 50 years, 49 years, nothing. And here I want to skip over two huge issues, which you're going to find done on YouTube channel, certain persons, and you'll find written down. And I'm just going to, and I actually another YouTube channel goes and all this stuff too. And I'm just going to skip right through it. All right, the families ended up hiring, or the brother did. The brother. Do I have a picture of brother? Yeah, here he is. This is Rusty Arnold. He is the brother of Rachel. He doesn't seem to like his older sister, Deborah. So he thinks that Deborah and Tommy had something to do with Rachel going missing. He spends his entire life trying to find the girls and never does. And I understand where he's coming from. He hires some private investigators who are both whack jobs, in my opinion. And the stuff they come up with is, I'm just going to say, nonsense. And I'm not going to go there. I think they were just, I don't know if they're draining money from them. I don't know what was going on, but both of them, nonsense, garbage. So I'm not going to waste my time with them because it's meaningless. So that we can let's just toss that away. All right. So, and then of course they brought in a psychic, which also was useless. And so now the question comes down to what actually happened. If we get rid of just the gossip, and there's a lot of gossip, and there's a lot of crazy ideas thrown out, I'm going to go through what could have happened. Is her husband and her sister involved in some way in making her and her friend and the little girl disappear? Or was this somebody else that when she got to the mall, she knew the person but didn't expect what happened? Or was this complete 100% stranger abduction? Those are the three possibilities. So these are the three possibilities I'm going to discuss. I'm going to stop and check your comments, and then I'll get to the three possibilities. All right. What you know, I know they're dead. Well, that would be true. And there's, oh, wait a minute, though. There's some people who think Rachel's still running around and showing up every Christmas in Fort Worth. This is the type of stuff I just want to punch people in the face. I'm like, stop it. Just please stop it. Let's see. Yes, the PIs often take advantage. And one of them was such a whack job, they ended up committing suicide and then burning up all his files. And so, of course, a lot of it is made of that, but he just promoted a whole bunch of nonsense is what he did. And it just really annoys me because, first of all, it's harmful for the family. And second of all, people then run with it on the internet because in lieu of actual evidence, they're like, oh, this could be true and that could be true. It's like, no, it's nonsense. Don't even go there if you don't have evidence. Don't go with gossip. You know, it's just unexpected. Yeah, poor Rusty. His name was Rusty. And he obviously did want to find out what happened to his sister, and apparently didn't like the older sister very much. So he just kept accusing her of having something to do with this missing sister. And of course, she did happen to have a relationship with Tommy prior to Rachel having a relationship with Tommy, and they were all living together. So could it look sketchy? Yes, it could. But I'm going to get into. I will start with could the husband have been involved? Okay. So let's go with that. All right. So, oh, wait a minute. I want to point out this. Loretta has something useful to say. If I ran away at 17, I would definitely be taking my car. Why hitchhike when you've got wheels? That's a good question. And that's one of the things this doesn't make much sense. So, okay. So let's go to Tommy. Just let me put his picture up here so you can remember what Tommy looks like. Okay. So here we get Tommy. Tommy, pretty good looking kid. But he did marry a lot, like 5 times. I think he kept marrying and divorcing. And this is actually important. So he married someone, he had a kid with the person, they got divorced. Then he hooked up with her sister, probably for like a little teeny bit of time. And then they broke up. And then he hooked up with her and he got married to her. They were married 6 months. And then time went on and she just obviously wasn't there. So he filed for desertion, which meant he could move on to another woman and get married, which he did. And then they got divorced. And there was another woman, and they got divorced. I can't even go through all of them. But anyway, finally he married somebody quite young. And then he's been with her for 40 years. So I don't know if he was just like a young womanizer or whatever. But it is important to note this. He had no problem getting divorced. He divorced. So one of the claims is he wanted to get rid of his wife of 6 months because he was moving like maybe back in with his sister. He wanted a sister again, or he was with somebody else or whatever. So he killed her. Well, for a guy who divorces over and over again, doesn't seem to have a problem with it. Why would he go to the level of homicide when he doesn't have to go to the level of homicide? That just doesn't make a lot of sense. There's claims that she was pregnant, which there's no proof of. Then she was pregnant with some other guys. And again, this is gossip crap, so let's not go there. There were some claims, she was having affairs. He was having affairs. Okay, I want to read you something. This was one of the things I got upset with Stephanie Harlow this time. Not that all her stuff is crap, but I'm not happy with this whole thing. So let me read you what she said about the affair garbage. All right. All right. Maybe like Rachel almost had a double life. How do you know she had a double life? There's so little information on this case. There's no way, unless you read the police files and had absolute information. Does she have any kind of double life? How old is she? 17. I'm trying to just remember how old she was. She's 17. She hooked up with this guy probably she's 16. She married him. Like within 6 months, she's cheating on him and has all these affairs. She has a double life. She's a teenage girl. She's still in high school. And she's going out to buy her stepson some Christmas presents. So then this is what she says here. This is from Stephanie Harlow's channel. Hold on a second. I clicked on something. Don't do that. Where'd it go? Hold on. All right. Why is it doing that? Okay. Maybe. Now, let me get this straight. It seemed like Rachel kind of had almost a double life. Stephanie, you have no freaking clue that that's true. It's also possible. Anything is possible that there was a young security guard at the mall. Maybe Rachel was having an affair with him. Seriously? Maybe she was having an affair with Santa Claus. He was at the mall too. I mean, what the hell? Just claim somebody's having an affair with somebody because they happen to be at the mall? This is ludicrous. Unless there's proof that she was hooked up with this guy, don't say that. This is insulting. And this is based on the investigation of Dan James, because Dan James was a psycho PI, in my opinion. Garbage PI. I'm not saying he's a psycho, just a garbage PI. Who said that Rachel was reported to be having an affair here? Does he have proof of that? Or is he just pulling stuff out of his ass? Hat. Sorry. Pulling stuff out of his hat. Really his ass. Anyway, and it's possible that maybe Rachel, if you use maybe too much, I'm getting concerned that you're just making up shit. Maybe Rachel didn't have any last minute shopping to do at the mall that day at all. She just wanted her friend Renee to meet her new boyfriend. Okay, she was going to go shopping with her sister, but when sister couldn't go, she was going to go with her friend to buy presents. So now you're going to say that she only took her friend so she could meet the guy she was cheating on her husband with, so that Renee could go back and blab this around. And the little 9-year-old goes, Mommy, guess what? Guess what I heard when I was at the mall? Get out of here. This is appalling. She just wanted her best friend, Renee, to meet her new boyfriend. And, Julie ended up coming along, and that was fine. Then maybe the security guard brought one of his friends, and those were the two people that kidnapped the girls. This is nonsense. This is garbage. Tell a story. Stop profiling when you don't have profiling abilities. To me, that's just appalling. So this is just crap gossip that says that she was hooking up with some guy at the mall, and that's how she got kidnapped. Now, could she have known the person that ended up taking her theoretically from the mall? Yes, she might have vaguely known them. Whatever. We don't know. I do not know. And I'm not going to say it's a security guard and she's having an affair. That's just wrong. Sorry, that's wrong. So anyway, so that's one. So some nonsense theory. All right. So now the husband's not involved in this scenario from Stephanie. Stephanie says it's not a strange abduction. She doesn't believe it. So she either thinks the husband did it or her lover did it. Okay, no proof of any of that nonsense. So anyway, so now we go back to the husband. So let's go look at the possibility of the husband. All right. The biggest problem is that he doesn't have a problem with divorcing. He also knows where his wife might be. So, when you want to get rid of just your wife, there's a lot of ways to get rid of just your wife. You don't need her to pick up her best friend and then have the little girl there. And so now instead of killing one person off, you got to kill all three. It's a lot more work. Now let's assume that Tommy decided with her, a lot of people say with her sister, because, they got to get rid of her. Why? I mean, the sister already was with Tommy. They can just like break up again, and she'll just go on her way. She's 17. She'll just go get some other dude. Maybe the mall security guard. And then her sister Debbie can go back with Tommy. I hope it's Debbie. Hold on a second. I think their name is Debbie. Anyway, If I'm wrong on that name, let me know. Anyway, so now her sister and her husband, or just her husband alone, decided he wants to kill off his wife. Now, first of all, it's a Monday. Tommy is going to work. He works in a transmission shop that he bought the shop from her father, who was dying of cancer. Some people think her father had something to do with it. The dude was dying of cancer. It just makes no sense. He wasn't a nice guy. He was kind of a piece of garbage. But anyway, she grew up in a rough home. That's all I can say. It wasn't the best home. That's probably why she got married young. Her sister was running away. They're kind of a mess. But anyway, Tommy now decides, for whatever weird reasons, he wants to get rid of his wife instead of divorcing her. And so it's Monday, December 23rd. He's going to go to work all day long because he has to work. And according to, now let me read you what somebody said. And then somebody immediately came back and said, because I don't know if this is true. I do not know if it's true, but somebody immediately came back and said, well, I clearly see that you're one of Tommy's best friends or one of Tommy's families. Here was the statement, and I'm just going to read it, and I do not know if this is true. And the only reason I'm reading it is because there's some level of making sense here. This person wrote, Tommy was at the shop in Arlington working, it's a Monday. Rachel's dad picked Tommy up for work because they only had one car. So these two only did have one car. And so if she took the car to go shopping or said, hey, to him, I want to go shopping today, get presents and crap. He's like, okay, I'll ride in with maybe her father, right? Rachel's dad picked Tommy up for work so his wife could use their only car to do some Christmas shopping. Seems reasonable to me. Rachel's dad worked in the office that day while Tommy worked on the cars. Do I have proof of any of this? No. Do I know that Rachel's father worked in the office while Tommy was working on the cars? No, I do not. I do not know who was at that location. I don't know whether only the two of them were there, whether there's a third or fourth person who also helps with the vehicles. I don't know who's in that transmission shop. But he supposedly went to work. And the father would be one witness of him being at work. And if there were other people working there would be other witnesses. But supposedly he went to work. At the end of the day, Tommy was driven home by Rachel's dad. Now, if that's true, and I don't have any proof that it is, but I would think that if Rachel's dad actually did drive him home, if Rachel's dad is not in on any kind of kidnapping, he's driving him home at the end of the day. He took a shower and got dressed to go bowling. Monday was his bowling night. Deborah, it is Deborah. Okay. Deborah. Okay. The sister-in-law drove Tommy to the bowling alley. Oh, now you could say Debbie's in on it. Deborah's in on it because she's driving him to bowling alley. And maybe that's not what's really happening. To play on the league. So this is a league game. While bowling, he receives a phone call from Rachel's mother, letting him know they can't find the girls. Also informing him Deborah was coming back to get him and bring him to the mall. Shortly after Tommy's arrival, he was told to go home by law enforcement. He wait by the phone in case they called. So that's where Tommy was, and that's what Tommy was doing. Now, I cannot say this is accurate, but it makes sense. It is a Monday. He's going to work. Then he was at the bowling place because people saw him there. So when did he have time to be kidnapping his wife? First of all, let's say he's gone to work, and the father took him to work. He did go to work. So at some point, now mind you, this is not cell phone days. This is not texting days. It's not like, hey, honey, heading to the mall now. I'm going to pick up my friend. These aren't these days. So once he went to work and she said she was going to go Christmas shopping, pretty much that was the end of communication. She's not going to probably call him at work. And I don't have any police files to say whether this is true or not. Hi, honey. It's now 12 o'clock. I'm leaving the home. I'm going to go pick up my friend, and the little girl is coming too. We're three of us are going to go to the mall now. I mean, probably that's not happening. But let's say, theoretically, she should have gone off to the mall, picked up her friends, done what the three of them should have gone. Let's go back to the three of them. There they are. Off they go to the mall. Now, it's a busy, busy day. December 23rd, lots of people at the mall. Maybe she always did park at Sears. Who knows? But she parks. Now, did she get into the mall or didn't she? So let's assume Tommy is out to get her. Now, he arrives at the mall. I don't know when. I guess he thinks he's going to arrive there eventually. So he leaves work Her dad doesn't know about it. Somehow he sneaks out of work, goes to the mall. I'm not sure what vehicle he's using. Oh yeah, people say because he works in a transmission shop, he's got all these cars available. So what, he's stealing people's cars that have bad transmissions? Really? That's your thought there? Oh, he finished the car, fixed the transmission, let me borrow it. Okay, so he borrows somebody else's car. Let's go with it. Borrows the other car with the transmission's fixed now and runs off to the mall. And now he's at the mall. He's got to find, first of all, the car. As I pointed out, this isn't a small place. Tons of people in the parking lots, if this is the proper picture. Tons of people pulling in everywhere. People running in and out, shopping. He's got to find Rachel. All right? Got to find Rachel. So now, let's say, she tends to park at Sears. He's got it. What is he, sitting at Sears waiting for her to show up? Okay, so he's sitting at Sears. He's waiting for Rachel. Rachel shows up, and Rachel gets out with the other two girls. So he says to himself, I don't have the patience. If I want to get rid of this girl, I'm just going to have to kill the other two as well. So somehow he tells her, hey, Rachel, don't go in yet. I want to buy you some lunch. Rachel's like, we're going into the damn mall. What do you think's in the mall? Lunch. How's he going to get them to suddenly jump in his vehicle to take them away? But okay, he manages it. Somehow he gets them in his vehicle. We don't even hear this guy owns a gun. Gets him in his vehicle and drive them away someplace. And then he does well with them. So now he's going to, by himself, he's going to kill off the three of them, put their bodies someplace, and show back up at work and go bowling. Really? I'm like, this isn't making any sense. Okay, so let's say he didn't see them go in the mall. They've already arrived. He said, oh, there's their car. They're already in the mall. Now what's he going to do now? So he sits outside and waits for them to come back out. And he says, hey, instead of getting in your car, why don't you jump in my car? Same thing. Only now it's later and he's got less time to work with. Now you see how retarded this is? I'm sorry. This is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Some people will say maybe he hired somebody to kill them. Like he said, okay, my wife's going to be at the mall. This is the car. And by the way, just let me show you a picture of that. I don't remember the 1974 cars. I don't. And again, I don't know the validity of this stupid picture. But okay. I mean, you send some dude to the mall to find your wife's car. You know how many cars look similar, especially at Christmas time when people are coming and going? Good God, that would be a hard job. It's also, I don't know, again, where this picture actually was taken, how far away from the building it was. But if you're looking at a parking lot that's this big, good luck. You're going to go up and down the rows trying to find that freaking car. I mean, she may not have even been able to park near Sears. She could have, she did end up on the Sears parking lot, but I don't know how close. I don't know, she could have ended up someplace else. So you're going to send somebody and then you tell her, okay, I want you to grab Rachel. Oh, but by the way, the guy gets there. Maybe, oh, look, there's two other people. Do you not think he's going to abort this whole thing? And there's no evidence that the husband ever called anybody, hired anybody. The whole thing is just nonsensical. All right. So let me go to the next claim. So now I can't even figure out why he'd want to kill her. I can't come up with a motive for Tommy. I can't come up with how he did it himself. And people try to pull in Deborah. What was she doing? Like, I don't see a proof she has a separate car. But what did he give her the car and she went and kidnapped the girls and killed them? Did they do it together because you needed two of them? So they both went over to the mall and hey, jump in the car, and then they both killed them. Okay, this is just ludicrous. So okay, but let's say Tommy Dunn did it. All right, Debbie was in on it. Now we come to the letter. So after the girls vanish, the next day, this letter shows up, which is admittedly bizarre. Now, here's what. This is what Stephanie said. And my eyes rolled out of my head reading this crap. So she says the theory goes, what theory? Somebody's theory. Now, if you're going to do a show, I don't care. Just don't come up with other people's theories. And if you're going to present it, you ought to present theories that have some merit to them. The theory goes that Rachel wrote this letter to Tommy at some other time for some other reason. Maybe she had like taken off before and he held on to it and then like sent it to himself after this to sort of suggest she'd done it again. So Rachel hadn't written it that day or even that year, but previously. So it makes sense. What makes sense? But this would mean, okay, so she writes this supposedly. So here's this quote theory that Rachel was planning to run away before, maybe a day before, maybe a week before, maybe a month before, maybe a year before. So she wrote this letter to Tommy and said, I'm going to catch it, but I just had, not she, not I had to get away, but we had to get away. Why would she say we? If she's planning to run away, she's probably not planning to run away with somebody else. How is she going to find that somebody else? So she would write, I'm going to catch it because I need to get away and I'm going to go to Houston. Now, why would she say that she's going to leave the car in the Sears parking lot? If she wrote this a year ago, was she planning to run away, leave the car in the Sears parking lot at the mall, and do what? Most people, when they run away, just say, I'm running away. I'll see you. Bye. Why wouldn't she say she's going to leave the car at the bus station where she might pick up the damn bus? If she's not going to drive the car because she wants to get Tommy his car. So Tommy, they only have one car. She doesn't want Tommy to be without a car. So she's going to leave it for Tommy. Wouldn't she just leave it at the bus station then and jump the bus or have somebody pick you up from the bus station? I mean, why would you pick the Sears parking lot? But of course, amazingly enough, when she does disappear, her car's in the Sears parking lot. So this is where you take something that happened now and try to backtrack it and make a ridiculous scenario. So now what happens is, it's just so dumb. So now Tommy's like, man, I want to get rid of my wife. She left me this letter. Says she's going to run away to Houston with somebody else. So let me be sure that there's a we. So let me be sure she takes one of her friends. And then she says she's going to park in the parking lot. So what opportunity? It's Christmas. Near Christmas, it's December 23rd. She's picking up her friend. I know she likes to park at Sears. I'm going to go kidnap her at a Sears so that this letter makes sense. What? I mean, I just want to rip my face off. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Stephanie Harlow, stop it. Tell the story. You're good at telling stories. I don't know where the hell you're going with this, but it's absolute garbage. So no, she didn't write a note before and put the information about the car there. That's absolutely ludicrous. That she could have left a note and said, I'm running away would make more sense if you're going to use that. So, she wrote this letter and then she never ran away. Hey, I can get that, but not with the car part. So now the next theory is that after she ran away, after they killed her, after hubby and sister did something to her and the girls, and the police are saying maybe they ran away. They're like, ooh, let's really push that idea. So they had to then create, because they hadn't thought of this before, you see. So they weren't having Rachel actually write the letter. They're going to have Debbie write the letter because Debbie's her sister. And Stephanie goes on this whole thing about how sisters write so similarly. My writing looks zero like my sister's. But okay, let's say they do look similar enough. And they have maybe some diaries, something you can borrow from. So sis writes the letter, and I'm leaving the car at the Sears parking lot. And then they decide they're going to make it look like it was mailed, because it would have to be mailed. In other words, she left the car in the parking lot and disappeared. Theoretically, she's on her way to Houston, right? And so she's going to then send the letter on the way to Houston, and it's going to arrive in their mailbox, you see, the very next day. Okay. Now see if you can understand this. The postmark comes out. Let me see if I can show you a place here. All right. This picture, what is this picture? This picture is showing Fort Worth. That's where they were at, down to Houston. So essentially, in the claim in the letter is that Rachel is and her buddies and her friends, they're taken off to Houston. As you can see, it's quite a distance to Houston, but they're going south. They're going southeast. Pay attention to this. Now, the letter was, let's see if I can find a picture here. Hold on, where'd it go? You know me. It's sent out of Weatherford. I just want a better picture of Weatherford. Okay, it's kind of hard to see here, but you see, it's Weatherford, Texas. What you'll see here is you'll see Fort Worth. That's the area they live in. If you see the yellow, that's the mall that is now called La Grande Plaza. It's now called La Grande Plaza, but not then. That was the mall they were at. If you go directly west, 33 minutes, half an hour, you come to Weatherford, Texas. That is the postmark on the envelope, is Weatherford, Texas. I believe that it's 88 on the end. I believe that is the Weatherford postcode. So that's where the letter should have been mailed out of. It wasn't mailed out on the day the girls disappeared on the 23rd. It was mailed on the 24th and somehow arrived at the house of Tommy and Rachel, and where they lived. Where, if you look at the La Grande Plaza, they lived a little tiny bit to the west of that, not very far. So they were still in that area, like maybe 5 minutes from the plaza. I mean, 5 miles or something. They lived just a little bit west of the plaza. So take a look at this again. So they disappear out of the plaza on the 23rd in the afternoon. The letter is postmarked the 24th from what I believe is Weatherford. Okay, that's, if you look up there at the postmark, that's the 24th out of Weatherford. Now, this gets a little complicated. All right, so here are some of the theories on that. One of the main theories to put Tommy in the picture is that he had to, instead of just finding a note in the house that says I'm running away, that he wanted to have the issue about the car being left to prove it was Rachel and to prove that she was running away from the mall. So he had Deborah write on a piece of paper, something like that. And then they looked for an envelope, but they had to have a postmarked envelope, you see, because you want to show that she mailed it, not that it was just sitting in your house with the information about the car in the parking lot. That makes no sense. So she had to have mailed the letter after she ran away. So now she's running off to Houston, and she goes, what way did she go? West, 30 minutes west to mail a letter. That's a little questionable, right? If she's going to Houston, which is directly south, why is she going west to mail a letter? Wouldn't she mail the letter on the way to Houston? So now you got this problem about it being sent from Weatherford. So, okay, let's look at the possibilities. She didn't mail the letter. This is a theory people have that the envelope, since it was a different shape, and because it looked like maybe somebody else wrote the address. And I'm going to say, okay, this is a possibility. Let's say it's a Christmas card. It's Christmas time, right? Christmas cards come in smaller envelopes. And I don't know what the envelope is. I don't know if it's a rather cheap regular envelope that would have just anything in it, or whether it was a more cardstocky envelope, which would have a Christmas card in it. I have no idea because we don't know. But okay, she's got the smaller one. So let's say they went to the mailbox that day, and oh my God, there's a letter delivered to Tommy right there in the mailbox. And it probably didn't have a return address on it. So they just took a pencil and scratched in Rachel. Okay, so it looks like Rachel sent it. Then they made up the note and stuffed it in the envelope, and then took that envelope with a letter in it to the police, to the family and to the police, and said, look, I found this in the mailbox. All right. Kind of interesting. Here's the problem. It was mailed from Weatherton. I mean, was that the name of the place? I'm sorry. It's I always forget the name of that darn town. Okay, what is it again? It is Weatherford. I always say Weatherton. So it's mailed, but the thing is mailed from Weatherford on that morning that he does also get the supposed letter. Now, some people will say this. Now, let me stop here. Some people say there's no way that if somebody mailed the letter on the morning of the 24th, in Weatherford, which is 30 miles away, that it would show up at his home, that it would take a day or two to get there. That's ridiculous. I have researched that. It is possible back in the day, especially at Christmas when they might do a double delivery. It is possible that a letter mailed in Weatherford that morning would get there. Also a letter mailed from Weatherford the night before. In other words, if girls were kidnapped and somebody put the letter in the slot, it wouldn't be stamped till morning. So it'd be stamped on the 24th, put in the slot on the 23rd, stamped on the 24th, and go out and just end up showing up on the 24th. Maybe normally it would show up on the 25th, but they got lucky. I don't know. But anyway, let's say that he goes to the mailbox and he finds this letter. Isn't it just a coinkydink that somebody in Weatherford who knows him sent out that thing on the morning of the 24th? Lucky him. It wasn't something that was sent out on the 23rd, the 22nd, the 21st. It was on the 24th after the girls were kidnapped. He just happened to get that. Well, that was lucky. So he took that envelope, which didn't have a return address, took out the insides, folded up the other fake note, stuck it in there, wrote Rachel on there, and turned it in. All right. Could that have happened? It's possible. It's possible. But is it probable? Does it make any sense? First of all, we have no motive. We have no real way that he committed this crime in the time frame he had to do it. I don't know why he'd even bother to do it because, okay, so yes, the police said that she had run away. Why didn't he just let that slide and go with that? And then they figured out, they're going to figure out eventually they didn't run away. Why the necessity to say they're going to Houston? Okay, was that to what? Prevent the police from looking at him? So that's a theory. But again, he would have to get lucky he didn't know the car was in the parking lot. So theoretically, that note could have been written by Tommy or Debbie. But he'd have to get lucky. There just happened to be an envelope sitting in his mailbox that day that came on that day from nearby. But it wasn't even on the way to Houston. But he could say, well, that's all I have to do. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. So far, I can't come up with a hell of a lot of reasoning for Tommy to have committed this crime. I can't. I just can't come up with it. You may not like Tommy. You may think he's kind of a sleazebag or whatever, but I can't come up with it. So I'm going to check your comments. I'm going to go to the stranger theory or somebody who grabbed him out of the mall theory. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. Why mail the letter? Well, I don't know that if I were him, I'll get into the mailing of the letter. That is the weirdest part of this case. So theoretically, not theoretically. We know one thing is true. The evidence is that a letter exists, which is claimed to be written by Rachel and is claimed to be mailed from, what did I just say that place was? I have a blank on that name. What is it? It's Weatherford. Sent from Weatherford. So we know, here's facts. Let's look at facts. The girls all went shopping together. We do not know they arrived at the mall. We do not. We just assume they did. We do not actually know they arrived. We know they went to the other place where they bought some stuff. We do not have proof they arrived at the mall. There are some sightings. We don't know if they're accurate. There were no presents found in the car. So either they were kidnapped before they went in the mall or they were kidnapped from the mall with the presents on them and never got back to the car. This is what we know. We also know they were never found again. We also know a letter did appear, and I'll say appear rather than mailed. A letter appeared that Rachel's name was on, that had knowledge of the car being in the Sears lot. And it had a post stamp from Weatherford area, the Weatherford post office, that was said December 24th, which means it was mailed either on the morning of the 24th or mailed on the 23rd to arrive at their home on the 24th. I believe it had to have arrived there. The reason I'm going to say that is because it exists and the postmark is 24. So there was some way that that envelope got in that mailbox. And I'll go into a second version of how that could have happened. But if it was Tommy who made this up, either he had two possibilities. He either got lucky and somebody sent him a letter on the 24th that he could then go, oh, I can use this, or he would have to drive to Weatherford and mail the letter, which is impossible because everybody's watching where the hell he is. So it probably didn't happen unless there's some proof in the files that he disappeared for 3 hours. Or he kidnapped his wife and the two girls and did something to them. And then, now mind you, he couldn't have mailed it on the 23rd prior to the post office closing, or it would be stamped the 23rd. So it either went into the box after closing so that it would then be stamped on the 24th in the morning, or it was mailed on the morning. But these are the things we know. And so we have to be careful we're not adding in things we haven't got a freaking clue about. Let's see what other comments are. Let's see. Well, did the letter match Rachel's handwriting? Some say yes, some say no. The FBI doesn't know. It's a girly handwriting. Don't know. Now, if he kidnapped her, if Tommy kidnapped Rachel, why couldn't he make Rachel write the note? If somebody else kidnapped Rachel, why couldn't somebody make Rachel write the note? Now, if she's dead, maybe they go, okay, Renee, can you write a note in Rachel's name? I guess she could do that. I don't know why, because it was Rachel's car. Could Debbie write the note because it's her sister? She could come close, probably. Nobody absolutely knows. And so we have to leave it at that because we have no clue. Let's see. Also another thing to point out, nothing of theirs was ever found again. In the car was a package a gift Rachel had already bought for the little boy, but that was prior to going to the mall. It was just in the car. And she had only bought him one present because I think she was planning to send it to him. And then he was going to show up. And she's like, I can't just give him one lousy present. Let's get a couple more. And that's why she was going to the mall. Her friend's purchases from that outlet, or whatever that was, the pants were in the back of the car. There was nothing else there. As far as I know, no purses, no keys, no other presents. This could be important. Let's see. And they weren't found in the parking lot either, which also may be important. I'll ignore the comments and let's see. Rachel wouldn't have taken a 9-year-old with her if she was running off. No, absolutely not. I mean, that's ludicrous. That's ludicrous. But it is also interesting that it is rare that somebody who wants to kill somebody or abduct and rape would take the 9-year-old as well. I mean, would you just not bother? Would you just find her one girl alone? Why? 2 girls, maybe you want. If you got 2 guys, you might want 2 girls. But then you got this stupid little 9-year-old. That's annoying. So that's very unusual. Very unusual. But also, if it were, let's say it were Debbie was involved somehow, is she such a psycho that she doesn't care if she kills off Rachel's best friend and a little 9-year-old girl? I mean, for what reason? I can't even come up with a dang good reason. I cannot. Hey, you're going to throw things out there. Maybe it was one of the dwarfs. No. Is it dwarfs or dwarves? Okay. Let's see. Could be a random wacko. No, that is not actually unreasonable. The problem is random wackos are out there, and there are people who are serial killers who and a couple guys that just think this is a cool thing to do. Like they're maybe doing drugs, maybe they're drinking, maybe they're just wackos, psychopaths. Perfectly reasonable, absolutely. Because a lot of times we say it's impossible for anybody to have done this, but in fact somebody did do it. So there we go. If it's done, it's done. That is always what I say. Serial killers. It's like Pringles. Who can eat just one? It's true. Once you enjoy what you do, you want to do it again. So let's see. It's a puzzle with a bunch of missing pieces. That is true. Okay, we're talking about the number one, the security. I want to point this out. Could it be the security guard? They most likely automatically trust a security guard. Yes, and then and Sarah is correct here. The number one profession of serial killers. I have brought this up many times. Yes, a lot of serial killers have been security guards. And why is this? Now, I'll tell you why. It's especially mall security. You know how much you have to do to get a mall security job? It's called breathing. Okay, you got the job. It's a very hard job to fill. You don't get a weapon. You just wander around the damn mall and in a little uniform. And you need so many of them that it's a badly paid job. So some serial killers who just need a job and don't mind the uniform and like to walk around and say to the women, "Oh, I'm a security guard." They like that job. So it is. I have believed that one of the number one jobs of serial killers. I'm not going to say the number one because somebody will say, "Well, have you done any kind of proper analysis and research to get the percentage?" And I'm like, "Hell no," because I don't have the energy. But in my experiences over the years, security guard is a very popular job. And then next to that is handyman. Some of them are also bouncers. So, which I say, hey, one of my sons was a bouncer and he's not a serial killer. So there you go. Being a security guard is not wrong. Okay. And being a handyman is not wrong. And being a bouncer is not wrong. These are jobs that most of the time, nice people do those jobs, but there are easy jobs to get for people who have trouble with paperwork or trouble need a job quickly. They're just one of those easier jobs. So that's why a lot of serial killers do them. And they also, as far as the power thing, they do like the power part. Handyman, not so much, but handyman's great for just slithering around people's apartments and houses and finding victims. So the security guard issue. Yes, there were security guards. There were more security guards, supposedly. I read about this. More security guards in the mall at that time of year because it was Christmas and so many people. Supposedly, they were not outside in the parking lot. They were wandering around in the mall. So they were, looking to make sure that everything was, cool, that nobody's shoplifting. Some people say, well, maybe the security card came up and said, oh, you're shoplifted, so therefore we have to go to the office and you have to come out and get in a vehicle with me and drive away. I'm not real sold on that. There was also a security guard that claimed he saw some girls with another security guard at 11 p.m. Well, they were already gone by then, so that's meaningless. So there's no real proof that a security guard had anything to do with this. Although, and then there's 3 people. So if he's working alone, he's got to handle 3 people. And if he's in the mall and he sees young women, why do you take 3 of them? Especially one with a little 9-year-old girl tagging along. Why bother? Why not just find another girl who you can accuse of shoplifting and take 1 girl? So it's. I don't quite buy that story. I think it's probably just meaningless. You can. This is true. You can easily control 3 girls if you have a gun or a knife. Yes, but it's not good when you're driving. That's the hardest time. I'm not saying it can't be done. So Anne-Marie, you're correct. Like, when we talk about the Delphi crimes, everybody went berserk over, oh, there's no way he could have controlled 2 girls. No, he pointed a gun at them and said, go down the hill. I mean, what are the 2 girls going to do? They got a gun pointed at him. And he's in the middle of nowhere. They're in the middle of nowhere. He doesn't have to drive. He doesn't have to distract himself. You can just tell him to go wherever he needs to tell him to go. And then once they're there, he can say, lie down. And if you do, and go to one girl and say, if you act up, I'll shoot her or cut her throat. You can do all kinds of things. That's not so hard. But if you're driving them away in a vehicle, it gets a little tougher with 3 of them. It does help to have 2 people in that case, which means that one person could drive and the other one is the one controlling the 3, or at least putting the gun or a knife to the 9-year-olds and saying, you 2 girls act up, we'll kill the 9-year-old. That's much more likely than one guy trying to drive away with 3 girls. I mean, he could get them in there. He could make them all lie down. He could tie them all up. Theoretically, he could do it. I just find it's probably not as likely just because it's too damn much work. And one of the things that creepo psychopaths like to do is I like easy stuff, and they don't want to overdo it, make it hard work. So let's see. Test drive to check the transmission. Yeah, okay, all right, okay. Texas Redhead, that's reasonable. Could he just said, hey, I got to go test drive? But he's got to test drive by going to the mall, finding them, getting them in the car, taking them someplace. All by how is he going to do all this stuff when he's supposed to be at work and he's going to bowling and he shows up at bowling? I mean, it's just so unlikely. And he knows his wife is with at least one other. And if you're going to get rid of your wife, you got so many opportunities. You don't need to pick a day when there's a crowd. You know what I mean? That just doesn't make any sense. So that's the other comments. Could be a random serial killer. It could be. They certainly were running around. That's possible. Let's see. Oh, I want to see Texas Redhead. By the way, Texas Redhead has said she's from the Fort Worth area at that time. So I'm so glad you're here. My mom can mail something from Weatherford and get it the next day. It's not that far. But but I have a question. Has she ever gotten anything the same day? It's only like 30 minutes drive. But I don't know how the postal system works. Like let's say they dropped off somebody dropped off that letter at night in the slot or whatever. In the morning, they go, they stamp it. Now the letter might leave, but it has to go it's going about 25 miles down the road toward Fort Worth, toward the mall, because I can never pronounce the last name. So I'm going to say Rachel and Tommy live right outside, they're between Weatherford and the mall, but I think they're only like 5 miles outside the mall, something fairly close to the mall. So someone has to get from the Postal Service has to deliver from Weatherford to that area near the mall. Would it get there on the same day? Because it clearly did get there on the same day. And this is one of the interesting problems. It did get there on the same day. So this is something that people keep saying is impossible, but yet it's stamped the 24th. And according to Tommy, it arrived the 24th, which makes sense because he brought it to people on the 24th. He brought it to the family and the police on the 24th. Now, one thing they don't tell us, which drives me nuts, is that some people say the morning of. Well, that would be kind of freaking impossible, theoretically. That if the thing was mailed and if it was stamped on the 24th, it's going to leave the post office on the 24th. Seems unlikely it would arrive within an hour or two. But could it have? I don't know. It could have. Or did he get it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Some say day, some say morning. I don't know who's telling the truth. But a lot of people have said it is possible, especially in those days, in the 70s and right at the Christmas time, that maybe they doubled up. In the 60s, they used to do twice a day delivery, but apparently by the 70s, that had changed over with the new postal service, and they went down to one. But there were some people who said that they still had a couple times, like they might do two, which might be Christmas because they were overloaded. But I don't know. But I can say this: that letter had a stamp from, I believe, Weatherford on the 24th. So it was mailed on the 24th. And I will get into the other possibility, which is interesting and possible. So, okay. All right. Loretta says, I've had mail take 2 weeks to get to my office from a different floor of the same building. And that is also true. So there you go. You can go one way or the other. Let's see. Deep dive into the mail process. And then that's a lot of work. I don't know if anybody even has the information. I did my best to find that information. All right. Let's see. Melanie says, perhaps the abductor forced Rachel to write the letter. Very possible. If the letter still exists, there's potentially DNA evidence on the back of the stamp. And this is a good point, because back in those days, you didn't get the sticky stamps. You had to go, or you had to take a sponge. Now, back in 74, nobody thought about DNA, quite frankly. I would think that they just did that. Could there be DNA on the stamp? Sure. Could they made Rachel go? And then they would have Rachel's DNA. I have not seen anything about them doing DNA on that stamp. So I have no idea, but it would be a nice idea. It would be. Okay, let me go to the next possibility. I think I got kidnapped by somebody out of the center. All right. Now, it is possible that, okay, so they get out of their car Now I'm going to take you through the thinking process. I want to see you how this is what I do at 3:00 in the morning, 4:00 in the morning, 6:00 in the morning. I'm like, I should go to sleep. I get obsessed, and then I go through the scenarios because I'm walking through. It's not getting in the mind of the killer as much as it is going through the process of what that person would have had to do behaviorally to achieve what they want to achieve. And then is it realistic? So, okay, so one possibility, let's go to the first possibility. They bought the crap at the that little outlet place, and they weren't at the mall yet. They got those jeans or whatever. They jumped back in the vehicle, and now they're on the way to the mall. Some people have brought this theory up. On the way to the mall, and somehow somebody jumps into the vehicle. Let's see. First of all, let's say a fake cop comes along. He's got, just sticks a thing on his roof and goes, woo, woo, woo. And a fake cop. And he comes up here, and then they kidnap the girls. But then they got their cars like sitting there on the side of the road, right? So what happens to the car on the side of the road? First of all, if you're going to kidnap on the side of the road, why don't you just leave the freaking car on the side of the road? Why do you need to drive it over to the mall? What would be the point? So let's say you kidnapped them, you brought them someplace, and there's a couple guys, and they're like, yeah, we ought to do something about that car. So now you got two guys. Well, if one guy takes care of the girls, the other guy takes the car, goes over to the other car, jumps in the car, drives to the mall. Now he's stuck at the mall. You see how things go badly here? It doesn't make sense. Okay, so let's just throw that out. It's just nonsensical. Okay, let's say that somehow the girls pulled up to a stop sign, and two guys just jumped in their vehicle, pointed guns, jumped in. Let's go to the mall. I mean, how about let's go to some farmlands where we can rape and murder you? No, let's go to the mall first. Now there are going to be 5 of us without a vehicle because we have to leave your vehicle in the mall. Okay, so again, doesn't make sense. So let's throw out that they got kidnapped before the mall. All right, so now they do arrive at the mall at the Sears, which she maybe reasonably parked so she can go buy cheaper toys for her stepson. All right, they've arrived at the mall. Let's go with complete strangers. So some guys, because there was a woman who said, what did she say? There was a woman, and this woman came, and this is kind of a strange comment, but it's interesting to point out. Wait a minute, hold on, let me find it. It was a statement that there was where the hell? Hold on a second, I got to find it. There was a woman they call her an elderly woman. And now I'm always like, when everybody says elderly, now I'm like, am I included in that? If I report something, will I be the elderly woman who reported it? But this elderly woman's claims, she told somebody there, not the police, mind you. Said she saw 2 guys, one guy in a truck with 2 girls, and then another guy pulling another girl into the truck. So you got the 2 guys and the 3 girls being taken away in a truck. Only one is seemingly being abducted, mind you. But she doesn't report this to police. She just mentioned this to a salesperson. So that's real questionable. But okay, let's go with maybe she saw something. All right. So the girls arrive. There they are. They come into the parking lot. Now, they have to walk from they're getting out of the vehicle. Now, theoretically, if this stranger, total strangers, they have no idea who's in that vehicle until they get out of the vehicle. Now they get out, they see 2 young teens that are nice, and then this little 9-year-old tag along, right? And it's, again, Christmas. Lots of people pulling in, pulling out, people walking through the lot. I mean, there are the moments where serial killers will take that moment of opportunity. It's like a window of opportunity where they look left and they look right and there's nobody watching them, and they grab somebody. But they don't usually do it in a parking lot of a major mall at Christmas time when it's hordes of people there, and take 3 of them. I mean, that's a rough one. They're getting out of the car. Now they're going to get out of the car and they're going to walk straight into the mall. So there's not much time frame there. And also we see if they're going to grab them, we don't see the purses being dropped, the keys being dropped. We don't see any of that. So it seems odd. Okay, but let's say, all right, that seems too odd to me. Okay, let's say the girls get into the mall. They go to Sears, they buy some things, she's got a little bag, and now they're going through the mall. Would there be any reason for them to leave the mall? It's an open air mall, but would there be any reason for them to leave the mall at any other location, go out any one of the other door areas, open areas, to the parking lot where the car is not parked? That doesn't make sense. So in theory, they're like walking around the mall. They're going to eventually walk back to the Sears parking lot. Now they're going to exit to go to the car. Again, we have stranger guys say, hot dang, here come some girls, and they're going toward the car. Is it possible they didn't realize the 9-year-old was with them? Were there other people coming out and going? They thought those were just 2 girls, and they pulled up, and then they grabbed the 2 girls, and then they saw the little girl go, ah! And then they said, we grab that girl because she's a witness now. And they grabbed that girl and throw her in the vehicle, and off they go. Is it possible? Yes. It's not terribly probable, but is it possible? Yes. They disappeared from here. I have no question about that. They disappeared from here. So either they got kidnapped by a couple guys. I believe it is 2 guys. A couple guys, they did not know who they were, or they got kidnapped by 2 guys who they might have known to some extent who they were. So the one theory is that, somehow when they were coming to their vehicle, they got grabbed, and some reason nobody really saw, except maybe this elderly lady who doesn't bother to report it to the police. So there you have it. Nobody drops anything, which I find interesting. Because usually when you're being kidnapped, I mean, you don't need to hold on to crap. Usually you're freaking out and you're fighting and things fall in a lot. I mean, they could have stopped and gathered up everything, but do they do that? The car supposedly was locked. Rachel's car supposedly was locked. Again, I don't know the veracity of that, but if it was locked, that means she, did lock the car and walk away, and then theoretically she would have keys in her hand, coming or going. All right, that's one scenario. Second scenario, they knew these people in some way, shape, or form, and here's the one reason I think it has a possibility that they had a clue who the guys were. Now, mind you, the guys don't have to be good guys. They don't have to be guys that you're big friends with or anything. But here's my theory on that. All right, I don't know which side is Sears. I couldn't figure that crap out. But let's assume Sears is down here. I'm just making this up. So at least I'm going to tell you I'm making it up. Because a long mall, let's assume this is even the correct picture of a mall. Okay, but the concept is, it was quite a large mall. I will tell you that. So it's not an unreasonable picture. If this isn't the actual mall, it's a good representation. All right, let's say they're down here at Sears. And they park here, and they buy some stuff in Sears, and then they go down here. Somebody thought they saw them talking to a guy in a record shop, which is not unusual for teenagers, right? So now they're walking down here, they're walking down here, they're walking down here, they're walking down here, they're walking down. Now they're at the end of the mall. I don't know if there's some office building thing here, but let's say they're at the other end of the mall. And they meet a couple guys they actually know have seen before, and they're chit-chatting, and the guy goes, oh, I got something. I want to give you girls something. Out in the van, and they go out here, and they're talking there, or maybe they're just going out to talk. But anyway, they're at this van or this pickup truck or whatever, and then the girl said, "Well, we got to go. We're in a rush. We got to go." And the guy says, "Where are you parked?" Which is a very common question. Where are you parked? And she says, "Oh, we're down at the other end of the Sears." Now, I know how many times people have done this for me, and I've done it for them. I'm like, I'll give you a ride down to your car. I mean, I'm not going to say, okay, well, have a nice walk, and the person has to trudge all the way through here. They're in a rush. It's like, hey, jump in my vehicle. I'll give you a ride I'll give you a ride to your car. Girls get in the vehicle and they never go to their car. They just drive away. 2 guys, they can control them and drive them someplace. Now, that is my preferred scenario, that they had some reason to know who these people were, so that there was a reason for them to get in the vehicle to go here rather than being abducted. So if they were just getting in the vehicle, people would not pay attention to that crap very much. The only thing could be that they got in the vehicle with the guys, and the little girl's like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know these things. And then one of the guys came out and said, come on, come on. And that's what the elderly woman saw. But it wasn't like a true, like, beat them up abduction type thing, drag them abduction type thing. Not even necessarily needing a gun or a knife, just like, hey, we're going to give you a ride. Now, let's say the guys have decided to give them a ride, and they give them a ride outside, and they go away with them. And they're like, hey, we're just going to go have some fun. And the girl's like, we don't want to go have fun. You know, I got to do this. I got to go to a party. Hey, come on now. Let's just go have fun. And maybe they're drinking. Maybe they got drugs. I don't know what they're doing. I do not believe these girls would have done drugs or drinking in front of the 9-year-old. So I don't believe they would have gone purposely with them, saying to the 9-year-old, don't worry about it, 9-year-old. We're just going to have some fun. I personally don't think that, because they had plans for the day, and Renee wanted to get back so she'd get ready for this big party. I think if that guys took them someplace, they did it without the girls agreeing very much to their idea. Okay, so now let's say off they go, and it gets out of hand for whatever reasons. Or let's say they just took them to someplace, and they had a place where they could just, a house where they could just drive up to, bring them in, say, hey, you're going to hang out here with us. We're going to have fun. Maybe they use that 9-year-old as, hey, mess with us. The 9-year-old gets it. We're going to have some fun. So they could tie up the 9-year-old, put her in a back room, whatever they're going to do with her. And they could drug and rape and whatever they felt like doing with these girls. Or something could have gone terribly wrong. They weren't actually planning to do that much, but something went wrong, and they ended up killing one of them, and then said, God, we can't, now we got to kill them all. I don't know. But here's my theory. As far as, what about the damn letter? All right. Let's say, now, I believe if these were guys that took these girls, I believe they went to, what's the name of the place that I can never remember? It's Weatherford, right? Weatherford. I believe if they took the girls, they went west to Weatherford. Now they're in Weatherford, at whatever place they're at, and they got these girls, and whatever, they want to keep them, or they think they're going to be in trouble, whatever. Then I can see them saying, hey, I'll tell you what, Rachel, just tell your husband, because I want to go, my husband expects me home, blah, 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 blah. Okay, Rachel, just tell your husband you ran away. You're going to go to Houston. Tell him you left the car for him. This is what you call two dumbasses, all right? You call, dumbasses, dumb shits, okay? A lot of people think everything done has to be brilliant. It doesn't. You get dumb shits who do things. And the dumb shits can look at her and say, hey, just write this thing. And then they go, okay, they got the letter that's written by her, and it says, I'm running away. Because is it smart? Well, if they're just trying to distract the police, saying they went south to Houston is better than that they're over in Weatherford. Now you say, but the postmark says Weatherford, which is why I call them dumb shits, because maybe they never even thought of that. Some of them are not that smart. They're like, we just want to tell, they're going to think you went to Houston. And so they can't find much. They find an envelope that they can stuff it into. And the name is like you'd get out of she could have said, well, this is my address. And they go, hey, we're going to look that crap up in the telephone book because we want to go to your husband. And they look up and tell them, oh yeah, here's his name, Thomas, as opposed to Tommy. They write, oh yeah, write your name in the corner here. Okay, Rachel, done. They go and they dump the letter in the post office. And they go about doing what they're doing. The letter goes to Tommy. The police get a hold of that. They're still saying, well, they were still saying maybe they did run away. So maybe it did work to some extent. Maybe there were some dumb shits on the police force. Who knows? So now they got the girls, and eventually, obviously, they killed the girls. Now, I want to go for another theory on how the letter could have arrived on the 24th at Tommy's. Now, let's go take a look here. So it's 33 minutes from the mall to Weatherford, and and Tommy lived and Rachel lived just a little bit on the west, going toward Weatherford. So I'm going to say maybe 25-minute difference. Okay, so let's say they really want to get that letter to them so that the next day the police will be distracted and they can do what they got to do with the girls. Now, When you go into a post office, back in those days, they could do a thing which is they could stamp it, physically stamp it, as opposed to going through a machine. All right. You walk into the post office and they physically stamp it. I know what I would do if I were them. Now, mind you, I don't know if the police ever went to Weatherford Post Office and ever asked the people there who came in that morning on the 24th. But let's say one of those guys rolled in on the 24th, because again, they're not the smartest, come in and say, I want to mail this letter. And they go, all right. And they stamp it and they go, oh, wait a minute. I forgot to put the return address on. Post person hands it back over. It's not a big deal because, it doesn't matter. They've already stamped it. The post office has already made their money. And the stamp can't be reused. So it doesn't really matter if they hand it back over. Oh, I forgot to put and then just takes it and puts in Rachel. Never returns the letter to the postal person. Now there's people, it's December 23rd, probably people in line to mail crap. He just takes it off to go work on it and just walks out the door. Drives down the road 25 minutes, opens up the box, sticks the letter in and shuts it. Now the letter has come through the mail and is in the mailbox early that morning. Could that have happened? Sure. So that's a second way that I can think of that whoever took the girls could have gotten the letter to their residence, to Tommy and Rachel's residence, without actually being mailed. That's possible. Whether they would have done that, who knows? Or maybe they just got lucky and mailed the sucker and it just showed up. Maybe they didn't really care if it got there that day, but they wanted maybe by the next day. They weren't that worried. And then what happens to the girls? Well, I'm going to show you a little picture of Weatherford. This is Weatherford to the right. A little bit. This is today, mind you. And you see how much green land there is to the left, how much farmland there is. What happened to the bodies? Did they throw? It's a lot. The brother kept thinking they were stuck put in a car, and the car was ditched to a lake, and that's never proven to be true. A lot of land, and I don't know where maybe the two unknown human beings lived, what kind of land they had access to. You got two guys. You can dig a pretty decent grave, and you can chuck 3 people in it pretty easily. And you can cover that up. And if it's a big expanse of land and nobody has a clue that the girls are out there, over time, that land grows over, like there's all kinds of grass and stuff that grow over. You put a few rocks on it, or you put it in the back. You could actually put the girls in the backyard and make a garden. There's lots of things you can do. So the bodies have never been found. I personally think they're buried someplace. And I don't know if they've ever done any examination of the lands around Weatherford to figure out whether that's exactly where the girls are, somewhere around Weatherford, buried. But I don't know. But I do. And then this is to me, if I were working on the police force at that time, I would check out Tommy. I just want to point that out. You can't ignore something, but I can't come up with Tommy doing it either. I really would be heavy on his alibis, his access to vehicles, all kinds of crap. But I would also say, maybe they just did get grabbed out of the freaking parking lot. And then you'd have totally unknown serial killer duo. Or they did know somebody, at least enough. I would be checking every couple guys that Rachel and Renee could possibly know from school, from the community, whatever, any couple sketchy dudes, to see whether they could have been just lured to get into the vehicle, to give them a ride back to the car. Something that simple where the guys could say, hey, and girls will talk to other teenage guys, or maybe they're a little bit older. After all, Rachel married a guy's 21. She's only in high school. So I don't know who she knows. The girls didn't have the best of home life. So God knows who they knew. They could have known people from the bowling alley, from the stores, from any place. The security guard, according to certain people. But they could know a guy. Not even necessarily both guys. They just have to know one of them. And the guy goes, hey, come on out. Girls are stupid at that age. Oh, come on, I want to show you this new tape I have. Oh my God, I got this great music. Hey, I got some records I can give you. Girls will do it. They'll walk out and go, okay. And they'll follow and they'll go, oh, that's so cool. No, we got to go. We got to go back home. We got rid of rush. Okay, we'll give you a ride to your car. Just never make it. I don't know which one of those things happened, but that's how I would analyze what we have here in this case, to have some rational analysis. And then if I work with the police department, then I would have these avenues of investigation. I'd have 3 avenues. I'd have the Tommy avenue, because I wouldn't completely eliminate it, although I find it very unlikely. Then I have the total strangers, and maybe one of those girls knew at least 1 or 2 of the people who might have abducted them. And I think Weatherford, that one just doesn't stick in my head right. So I always keep having to click on it just to make sure. Weatherford, Texas, I believe is meaningful, because that's where unless Tommy did write the letter, unless Tommy did use a letter that just accidentally arrived from Weatherford the same day it was mailed, he borrowed that thing, stuffed it with another one, he was really truly guilty of this entire crime. Unless he did that, then that letter was mailed from Weatherford, and it was mailed by the kidnappers. So Weatherford, to me, unless Tommy was involved, Weatherford is the key to this crime. So now I'm going to go to some of your comments. So, okay, let me get my little drink here. Let's see what y'all have to say. Let's see. Valerie says, it would be easy to find out if Rachel or Tommy had friends or relatives living in Weatherford. Okay, one interesting thing about Weatherford, apparently, this is true, Tommy supposedly got married in Weatherford, I think 2 times after the fact. After Rachel went missing, he got married. So he does have connections to Weatherford. I forgot to mention that. He does. But this is the problem. So if he had connections to Weatherford, and I don't have any proof that he had it at the time. So this is where you have, these are areas around Fort Worth that many people could have connections to. I don't know whether those connections came later or were there at the time. That would be what the police would be investigating. One would hope. Oh, that's what I would investigate. Weatherford, do you know people in Weatherford? I'd be all over Weatherford finding out if Tommy had relatives, friends, hooked up, it just hung out there for any reason. But he did have a marriage certificate coming out of Weatherford. So it's interesting. But then, so this would mean one of 2 things. One is, if he did have connections, did somebody from Weatherford send him like a Christmas card and happen to arrive? That could be something to look at. Or 2, did he have friends in Weatherford that he hired to kill his wife? And that I find completely unlikely. But if he had any connections with Weatherford at the time, yes, could he possibly have received a letter from Weatherford that just happened to show up at that moment, and he took advantage of it, and Debbie wrote the note, but then again, I can't come up with him having any time to commit this crime, have any reason to commit the crime, no motive, and on top of that, to take 2 other girls with her when he only was after his wife. None of that makes any sense. So I still stick with, that's probably just one of those red herring type things, because he later on in life had a connection to Weatherford. More likely just somebody else had a connection to Weatherford. That's my theory on that, but it's hard to. So this Hope and Jazz. Hi. There are more workers at Christmas. True. Packages and Christmas cards, a lot more mail. Yeah. So they may be more mail deliveries, but again, I don't know. Back in 1974, if I were the police detectives, I'd be standing in that Weatherford station. I don't know if they went to the post office in Weatherford. I would be questioning every single freaking worker. I want to know exactly how many letters that came out of Weatherford were delivered that same day. I'd want to know all those things, but the articles in this case are so limited, absolutely almost nothing. And the crap that comes out of the brother Rusty is just not stuff that's very believable. Did they just wanted to go to the mall and be home by 4? Is there any reason to doubt that was their plan? No. Absolutely seems to be totally the plan. Because first of all, they had the little 9-year-old girl with her, and she had to be home for dinner. Renee wanted to be home by 4 first to get ready for this party. She was very excited. And Rachel was just going to buy a couple presents. It's like, they went over there like teenagers do. Go have fun, go to the mall, get your stuff, go home. No, there's no particular reason to think that they wouldn't, that was anything but their plan. Let's see what you say. Wendy says, they say morning because they get their mail in the morning. Assumptions can lead you astray. I don't know. I don't even know what that means because I can't find anything that's absolute information about when the mail arrives at Tommy and Rachel's place. And there was a claim that that letter was sitting alone in the mailbox and not with other mail. This was a claim. Again, a claim, because I can't prove any of it's true. And if that were true, because that would be interesting, then two possibilities. One is, well, the first possibility would be that somebody, like I just said, actually went over and stuck that mail in there. Now, if you get a mail at a certain time of day, you generally speaking don't actually look for that mail at another time of day. What's the point? But maybe they went out early or whatever and looked in the mailbox and there's only one envelope in there. And they're like, oh my God, what's this? And it says on the corner, very clearly, Rachel. So they open it up and they, oh my God, I got to take this to the family. They went to the family and then it went on to the police. So somebody could have placed it in there when the mail wasn't being delivered and just stuck it in the mailbox. That's why I come up with a theory that they could have stamped it and said, oh, wait, I didn't put the return address on it, and then just delivered it themselves. Or let's say Tommy did this. This is what they're trying to say, most people, is that he made this whole thing up and then pretended the thing arrived. Well, I'm going to say, why doesn't he pretend that it arrived with all the other mail then? I mean, it is Christmas time. Why doesn't he say, I got the mail in at 3:00. Oh, look at this. Why would he say it arrived alone? So let's see, some of this stuff is just, does it have meaning or doesn't it? And it might have meaning, but I don't know if it's accurate. So can't say much, too much. Let's see. Now you got delivered twice a day back in the UK. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty popular until the 60s. So, but the 70s, apparently it stopped in the US. Because USPS took over and that screwed everything up. Texas Red says, I use a sponge because the stamps and envelopes taste like crap when you lick them. And that can be true. And also it depends how many you are. Now, theoretically, let's say this was a Christmas card envelope. Somebody's doing a whole bunch of Christmas cards. I know people who will swipe they'll lay them in a row and just swipe right down them. Then they'll put the card in. So they'll do that because it's just, like I said, over and over again, not pleasant. So so somebody may use that. What was it? Just one. I don't know anything about the DNA. I don't have any information on that or whether they even checked on that. Let's see. Someone might have followed them from the Army surplus store, and when they got out of the car, they grabbed them. Yes, that is possible. Good. I'm glad you brought that up. They could have been seen there, and some two dudes are in there going, check this out. Those girls are nice. Oh, that little kid's kind of a pain, but those two girls are nice. So they followed them. This is true. Into the mall. And when they parked, they pulled up. Theoretically, if there was a space next to them, this becomes an issue too. Is how crowded was it? Would they be able to pull up next to them? And so when the girls got out of the car, that was easy to grab and put them in their vehicle. Would they have to pull in front of just stop in the middle of the row? Were there other people around? But yes, they could have been seen at the earlier place. I'm glad you brought that up. And followed and to the mall. So yes, that's very, very possible. In that case, it would probably be a total stranger homicide. Because the chances of those guys being their friends, probably not. They would have to grab them immediately coming out of the vehicle. So that is a possibility. So we have to keep that in mind. Absolutely. The fact that Rachel's signature on the letter has a small edit on the L is interesting, but not overly interesting. I think this is too much made of this. It's like, oh, she didn't know how to sign her name, so therefore it wasn't her who signed it. If you're being pressured to write something, you're freaking out. You can do all kinds of things. I mean, I've sometimes botched some entire letter in my name. I mean, I just don't write it properly. And then you go back and you fix it. She could have been going, Rachel, and she just let her hand go and she said, Jesus Christ. So I don't think we can make too much of that. If somebody had Rachel with them, there's no reason why Rachel shouldn't have written it. I mean, you wouldn't have one of the other girls write it if Rachel's sitting there. If they killed Rachel, you could make Renee write it. But then Renee could write it to her family and say, Rachel wanted to take off, and so I'm going with her to Houston. We left the car at the mall in the Sears lot. She could have written her family, but it went to Rachel's family. So I think Rachel probably wrote it. That makes more sense to me, unless Tommy was the one involved in what happened to her, in which case then probably Deborah would have had to write it, because Tommy, it does have a girly thing to it. So I can't believe that Tommy wrote it. So then Deborah would have had to write it. If you believe that for whatever reasons, they had a reason to kill her off and take two other girls with, I can't get past that. It makes no sense to me. The motive is zero to me. And again, because they had access to Rachel 24 hours a day, pretty much. They could have offed her in some other way at some other time and not having to take out her best friend and a little girl. And have to, not only the fact, let's say they're total psychos and they don't care that they're killing two other people. It's still a lot more work. You got to get rid of 3 bodies and not 1. It's just the whole thing. I mean, again, I could be wrong, but I'd be real surprised if Tommy was involved with Debbie and making this. I can't. It just doesn't work for me. I can't make it work. I'm not saying it couldn't be true, because there are those weird anomalies. I always point out anomalies where you go, well, I'll be damned. I would never have thought whatever. But with their time frame that they're dealing with, I can't imagine that this is something they're going to be able to accomplish. Getting rid of the bodies and all that stuff and going bowling in the evening. I just can't. It doesn't work for me. Oh my God, Orange Julius. I remember Orange Julius. That orange drink used to, I don't know what it caused. It caused coughing fits for me. I don't know what was in that stuff, but it would irritate something in my throat and it would make me cough like crazy. I don't know if I had it more than a couple of times because of that. Somebody else have the coughing fit from the Orange Julius orange drink? Let's see. Someone they knew offered them a ride to the entrance. They'd have to park really far away. Let me think about it though, CJ. Hey girls, are you going to shop at Sears? Yeah. Well, we'll drive you to the entrance. I mean, these weren't crippled people. These weren't elderly people who couldn't hardly walk. I don't know that short distance from the car to the Sears front door would be something logical that somebody would think they needed the help. They'd probably go, no, we're good. So I doubt that. I feel more strongly about the fact that somebody would take them back to their vehicle if they were way over here and they were there. Then, that could be like a 10, 15-minute walk to the freaking mall. I mean, it's a long walk. And you got that little 9-year-old you're dragging along. So you might easily take a ride around to your car. That I can see. But I somehow don't think just from the car to the door of Sears would be as likely. Let's see what else you have to say here. Could it be a stalker? Yeah, could be. But then again, how did they know that she was going to be there? So there had to be one of those weird chance things like, oh my God, it's Rachel. Whew, I've been after her. I mean, could it happen? Yes, but nobody really knew that they were going to arrive at the mall, go to the mall that day or arrive. It was a last minute decision because the stepson was suddenly going to stay with them. Otherwise, she was going to just send the gift. But now he was going to be there. And she's like, oh, she was thinking, he wakes up on Christmas morning, he's got one lousy present under the tree. It kind of sucks. So she thought, well, I'll just go get him a couple more things. Oh, that's a very nice stepmommy. So I don't think anybody knew they were going to be there. The only person who might know that they were going to the mall would be Deborah, the sister, maybe the husband, maybe Tommy, the boyfriend of Renee, because he says, be back because we're going to the party. He would know. But, what? He just gives his girlfriend a promise ring and then he goes and kills off his girlfriend and his little sister. Yes. So they're not very good suspects. They're really not. Um, Someone familiar to them, yes. Not necessarily the other way around. Maybe they exchange hellos. Especially when it comes down to guys and teenage girls. I think if all of us look back on our teenage years as females, well, whatever. We weren't that smart. The fact that we were being paid attention to by another human being, that we were somebody special in that moment. That's why teenage girls often are suckered by serial killers who say, hey, I know I'm a photographer. Do you want to be a model? Look, I do modeling pictures. And they go right off with the guy to his van, often to his van, not to his apartment necessarily, but to his van, sometimes to his apartment, but sometimes just to his van. And then they disappear. All because he showed me he had a camera and a card that said, I'm a photographer. That's an old trick. And it's used by quite a number of serial killers, famous ones too. I forgot which ones, but famous ones. Yeah, I mean, you can easily bamboozle a teenage girl. I'm with a modeling agency. Could use that one, or we got these cool things we just like to give you. Oh my God, we just got this deal on jewelry, and you wanted some jewelry presents because we just got this deal. We got these like really cool necklaces and rings and stuff in our van. Girls are like, how cool! They're really cheap. They'll run right out there and disappear. That's the way girls are. So yeah, it could be somebody they vaguely knew. Could even be somebody they actually did not know. But they have to. I would think that if they were being driven back to their vehicle, they had to have left the mall in a different location. In other words, how did somebody get them out of the mall? Because it's unlikely that they would have left the mall of their own volition just to walk around the outside to their car. Most people are just going to walk back to the mall, especially teenagers. They're going to continue to want to be with the crowd, continue to want to see the stuff that's going on, continue to look in the windows. They're going to walk back through the mall. So for them to have left the mall, if this happened, if they were then told, hey, we'll give you a ride to the car, there had to be a reason they left the mall. So they had to either talk to somebody, right? It's at this area, and the person said, hey, come on outside, whatever. Had to get them to a vehicle by some hook or crook. So either they were literally kidnapped out of the parking lot on the way to their vehicle. So they literally, from the time they got out of their vehicle at Sears to walking in, or then coming from Sears, walking back to the vehicle, literally snatched. Or they had to have been lured by somebody, probably at the other end of the mall, who got them to their vehicle and then took off with them. So that would be my theory on that. Can't prove it. Cannot prove it. Wait a minute. Wouldn't have dragged a 9-year-old around to begin with. Some girls are nice big sisters. They knew the girl, so she was like, I want to go. And they're just going to the store. So not a big deal. It buys them time. As far as the theory that one has over why they would even want this stupid letter to be mailed, that if the police did look at, maybe they did go to Houston and they did look south as opposed to west. It bought them maybe some time to figure out what they're going to do, or whatever they were. Maybe they kept the girls in captivity for a couple of days. Who knows? So it may have been to buy them time to do whatever. Some people say, why even bother? Couldn't they just have enough time? If the police were already saying, hey, maybe they ran away, they would have that time anyway. But people come up with ideas and they think, oh, this is a good idea. It isn't always a good idea, but sometimes they think it's a good idea. Yeah, exactly. They're dumb, but it buys them time regardless. And that can be very true. They're not always the smartest people. You know what I mean? So people go, well, I wouldn't have done that because, and you're thinking like a profiler or a detective or a crime writer or something. Yeah, you wouldn't have, but you're also not maybe a 22-year-old retard. I'm not allowed to use that word. A 22-year-old, whatever you want to call them. Whatever you want to call them. Nobody's psychotic. Psychopathic, not psychotic. Yeah, definitely psychopathic. Because you take away 3 girls and probably rape at least 2 out of 3. You're going to, Okay, thank you, TR. I just looked up Texas marriage records. Tommy had 2 marriages in Parker County. Weatherford is the county seat of Parker County. It's a suburb, essentially, or a town that's nearby. Yes, that was later. And what I would want to know is, did he know anybody prior? Again, I don't think it's Tommy. I can't find enough stuff to put him to make it make sense with him. But I would check it out because of the Weatherford connection. You gotta check it out. This is what people don't understand. You don't have to put the theory at the top to check something out. But you do have to have some reason to check it out. In other words, yeah, somebody says, "Oh, it's aliens." No, I'm not checking that out. Sorry. Sex trafficking. Oh, I forgot to mention the stupid sex trafficking. Supposedly, Deborah said something to the effect of maybe they got pulled into white slavery, and so white slavery, of course, is the term of white slavery actually is not the. There's a historical term for white slavery, which actually white people were slaves at a certain point in time. But this was not, it was referring to sex trafficking. But no, the girls weren't sex trafficked. Again, this is stupid stuff. They weren't sex trafficked. There's no evidence of that, and it makes no sense. So I don't even want to go there because I'm tired of having to go down these rabbit holes for people because they decided, oh, it could be sex trafficking. The sister said that because that's what people say. She's like thinking, well, maybe they were grabbed for that. I mean, you'll say anything because you're wondering, and you're not, but no, again, that's just, no, they were never seen again. The chances of them being kidnapped for that, again, I've told over and over, I say this stuff. There's enough young people, 17, 18, 19, even in the 70s, who were hitchhikers, drug users, prostitutes. Without even you kidnapping them, they'll do these things. So you don't need to kidnap 3 people and start a huge police investigation. It's not necessary. So let's see. I mess up my signature sometimes. Yeah. When I was signing books, oh my God, I have terrible handwriting. And I was going to sign books and usually I just put a P and a kind of like an S/ and a B, but I decided people might like to actually see my name. So I had to really work on making P-A-T, Pat, B-R-O-W-N, and I have terrible handwriting. It was a struggle for me to actually sign that. And so, yeah, not everybody signs exactly the same all the time. And sometimes they screw up. They do. They screw up. Let's see. Okay, Taylor says, what is the likelihood that an abductor would take 3 girls on one of the busiest shopping days? It's not very likely. If they were a stranger looking for a random victim, it seems too risky to go for 3 in a busy area. Absolutely. But that's what happened. See, this is a problem we run into. Somebody took 3 girls on a busy day from a shopping center. That's a fact. That's not even a question. That's a fact. What people would do that? If Tommy was involved in this, why would Tommy do it on the same thing? People would say, well, I saw the guy took her and it looks just like Tommy and Deborah. It's like, the same thing. Why would Tommy choose to somehow find her at the mall and kidnap all 3 of them on that busy day in front of people? Why would Tommy do it? Well, he wouldn't. That's even stupider than strangers. Strangers, if they thought the girls were cute and they could just lure them into the car and then just drive away, it's possible. It happened. So we know it happened. That's a thing. It happened. So somebody did it. I don't know that they were looking to do it. It just may be that they saw the girls and they saw a way to lure them. And when they got them in the vehicle, maybe something went amiss. They were driving them back to the vehicle and then they got some other idea in their little brain and they decided they would take off with them. And let's go have some fun first. And it just all got out of hand. No idea. But that would be a better theory, I think, than the husband doing it. Clinton says, I was dumb when I was a teenager. There you go. Went off with a street artist to his apartment when I first met him with zero idea he might be expecting something. How I didn't end up dead in a ditch, I don't know. Oh my God, I've got a couple stories too. And actually, I wrote the book How to Save Your Daughter's Life, in my book, How to Save Your Daughter's Life, which, by the way, is only available for an audio right now. And I'm not the person doing the speaking in that, and I can't stand the woman who did it. Not her personally, but her voice is like, that is so not me. She's like, And then I went, I'm like, oh my God, she's like, dead. But I've just gotten the copyright back on that book, and I'm going to try to get that book out in print and in Kindle. So in that book, I tell a couple of stories. One specific story, which I do believe I might have ended up dead. I believe I had an encounter with a serial killer that because I acted like a moron, and I wasn't even a teen. I think I was 23. I did some stupid stuff, and I'm lucky I'm alive. So I don't know how I'm not dead in a ditch. Yeah, absolutely. You do some really dumb things. I mean, at that age, that's why it's so scary when you have your own kids. You're like, and then you're like, oh, you think, my kids wouldn't do that. And then you think, oh my God, I did that dumb stuff. It's like, yeah. So yeah, we did dumb stuff. Yeah, that could be the word. I prefer dumb shit, but I just don't know that's not it's not in the DSMV of psychological issues. Oh my God, cognitively impaired. I can't keep up with it. It's like every day it's like changes, and then you say the wrong thing, and everybody gets mad at you. But I just really don't care. I just don't. I can't play that game. It's just exhausting. Let's see. Oh, the garage story. Oh, was that the one? Garage story. I'm not sure that's the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about the bowling alley story where I went to the abandoned building next door with the manager. That was creepy. So in case you don't know it, I'll tell you real quick. So this is how stupid you can be. So I went to this bowling alley, and I had an argument with my husband. No, my argument with my fiance. I went to the bowling alley to get a job, and the manager was real handsome. And he said, you're looking for a job. Yeah. And then he said, hey, I'm taking a break now. I want to go next door to this part of the building, which was in construction, to smoke some weed. Now, I wasn't big on smoking weed, but, once in a while, you're just in a bad mood. I'm like, oh, okay. So he said, I'm going to meet you there. He said, go around front, and I'm going to go through the back, and I'll open up the door. And of course, you say, I don't want people to, see me, the manager, going in with you there. I'm dumb enough at this moment. So he comes in, he opens up the door. It's got a glass front. And I go in, we sit down, we smoke. There's like some crappy homegrown stuff. So it wasn't any of the stuff they have today. But anyway, and then he said to me, let me show you out. Follow me to the back. And the back meant down a staircase through the basement in the dark to the back. And I had this feeling at that moment that he wanted me to go into the dark area that I would never get out of again, because I didn't understand why he couldn't just let me out the front door, right? And so I looked at him, and I backed up toward the glass, and I said, no, I'm not going with you through that back door in the basement. And he looked at me and he said, you think I'm going to kill you, don't you? And I said to him, yes, I do. And he let me out the front door. Creepy. I think I would have been dead if I'd gone in the basement. But that was pretty stupid, generally speaking. Oh no, that wasn't being a teenager, TR. This was when I was doing investigations. I was investigating a homicide, and I was interviewing the next door neighbor. And yeah, I still suspect him as being the actual killer. Yeah, it was a very scary situation. That's a whole nother story. But that was in my work. But I've been a dumb teen, or a dumb 20s person too. I got smarter, thank God. But I'm lucky I wasn't dead in a dish before I got a little bit smarter. So anyway, so that's it. That's my thoughts on this case. So below, I will link the article that was pretty much the article that was used for the YouTube 2 videos that was done by Stephanie Harlow. So if you want to read the long article with all this whole bunch of other stuff in it, I think is unnecessary. But if you're a journalist, you're going to write this stuff because it makes a long article. Do that. But pretty much what I think is important, I said in this video. Whether this case will ever be solved, I think it will be more a matter of they come across the body somehow. Let's say one day somebody excavates some land, they're going to build something on that land, and they dig up an area and they find 3 skeletons. Then we'll know maybe more about who did it and find some evidence with them. But unless that happens, it's been 50 years, so it's not going well, But there's still that area past Weatherford, and I'm not going to say. Okay, let me say this too. See, remember I showed you. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh yeah, here's Weatherford, and look at all that open land. They could be buried anywhere out there, behind somebody's house, behind a barn, in a field. Who the hell knows? But again, it doesn't mean they actually lived in Weatherford. They could. They could have just gone 2 more hours west with the girls to some other location that they had, or go north or whatever. So there's, the problem is being able to, unless you have some specific evidence that actually pins down a spot, you're kind of screwed. Now, I would look into Weatherford because that's where the letter supposedly came out of. That I would look at anybody connected to the girls and the families, anybody connected to schools, any place that they'd ever been that might have some connections to Weatherford. I would investigate people more so than land. And then if I found people that were suspicious, then I'd investigate their land, if they had some land to investigate. So, but the chance of this case ever getting solved will be purely luck, I think, of finding the bodies. Because other than that, I don't think anything's going to come of it. Now, people always say there could be a confession. Well, there could be. If somebody was willing to confess, but it usually doesn't happen. It doesn't. So anyway, that's it for today. I'll be back with. Wait a minute. Allison says, "Good night, all. Thank you, Pat. Glad to hear it. It's not just me that did dumb shit as a youngster. Yeah, I was pretty good, generally speaking. Outside of a couple little times, I smoked a little bit of weed when I was younger, just a little couple times because I wasn't big, and I didn't do any other drugs. I didn't drink. I really, I had pretty. I mean, I went to Hollywood and all that, so that was kind of sketchy stuff that happened there. But I didn't do the casting couch, but still sketchy people. So, I've traveled and got myself in dangerous situations traveling when I was younger. And I learned a lot, and I got a lot smarter. And when I travel, I feel relatively safe the majority of the time because I've learned not to do stupid shit. So, you get a little smarter, and, things still happen to people no matter what they do. Sometimes you just got bad luck, and you could do everything right, and you still have bad luck. So, and there are bad people in the world, and if your paths cross, sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. So these 3 girls, I don't know if they did anything wrong, shouldn't have gone to somebody's vehicle or whatever, or should have screamed louder or thrown things. I mean, who knows? But, it's a terribly sad case. I mean, the ages of the girls, and just they were out for a nice day too. They weren't doing anything bad, especially the 9-year-old. I mean, none of them were doing anything bad. They seemed all like they were doing nice things. One was buying a present for a stepson. She was trying to be a good stepmommy, and the other one was excited about her new relationship with her boyfriend and going to the party. And the other little girl just wanted to spend time with older girls. I mean, none of them are out there drinking and drugging. So it's just very, very sad case. And that nobody ever knows, has no clue what happened to him. And that's why it's been one of the bigger mystery stories out there. But I hope I helped make more sense of it. I hope I helped you understand more logic and analyzing, and rather than go off on all kinds of weird gossipy crap, which just drives me nuts. So anyway, I still do stupid stuff, but not dangerous. Alrighty then. That's good. Just keep the danger out of it. Oh my goodness. Anyway, that's it. So I'll be back either Wednesday or Thursday for the hangout, and then next week for another live case show. And again, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. Keep me floating. And also, if you want to be in the chat room with all these wonderful people, I really do get to know everyone in the chat room. I mean, that's what's so nice. A lot of people ask why I don't do live shows that are public. It's because you get a whole bunch of all kinds of bots and haters and crazy people, and it just gets really a lot of stuff that happens is so offensive. It's just like, I get that would get me a lot more views, but I'd rather have a really nice group of people who come regularly, and we get to know each other, and they get to know each other. And so I much prefer a smaller live show. And so if you want to be part of that, join Patreon below. And I will see you, well, next time. And again, all of my shows are public, so you don't have to join anything except do subscribe. And all of my shows are available to the public. And I'm going to keep it that way forever. So thank you for being here. Bye.